Heidi ho, YouTube people. Today's project, my 2020 Royal Enfield Continental GT 650. Write that down. It's time for its first service. Just bought this, mentioned it in my intro video. It's my first ever brand new motorcycle. I've always been in love with cafe racers. Long before, I guess it's a fad right now, but long before this, which doesn't really make a difference. I'm no more special than anyone else. I've been listening to a lot of Bill Burr podcasts, so if I sound a little bit like him with my humor, it's because he's influencing me. Thank you, Mr. Burr. So yeah, the bike has, let's fire that, not fire it up because I'm doing valve adjustment so I can't get warm. You can't really see that. Let me try killing the lights a little. Does that work? Can you see that? I can't see it. 299.9 miles. 299.9 miles. First service is at 300 miles. I don't think that 0.1 of a mile is going to matter. What is involved? I need to take off the valve cover, adjust the valves. Thankfully it's not a shim and bucket setup, it's a tappet setup with an adjustable lock nut and screw. I need to remove this cap to get to the crankshaft so I can turn it. Yeah, I can turn it by moving the rear wheel, but I'd rather have the precision of turning it from the crankshaft. And also I don't have this 17mm Allen head, so I have to go buy one, and it's just another excuse to buy some tools. Woohoo! Also involved is changing the engine oil and filter. Once the tappets are adjusted, I can start the bike, let it warm up a little bit, maybe take it for a quick spin, and warm up the oil, then drain it, change the filter. Because for anyone that doesn't know, when you get a brand new motor, even though everything is pretty precision machined, there are still some minor differences. So as it's running, it's going to seat together better, and you may have some itsy bitsy metal particles. So they want you to get them out of there after that first 300 miles. Everything should have pretty much seated itself. So that's on the major agenda. After that, I have to check certain fittings, the ABS fittings for any kind of leakage, the brake lines for any kind of leakage, make sure no cables or anything are chafing, everything's seated the way it's supposed to be, etc., so on and so forth. The cool thing about the warranty on this, it's got a 3-year unlimited mile warranty. That's the good news. Also good news is I can do my own services, or I could take it to an independent shop for any type of services without voiding the warranty. Because the bad news is, bad-ish, the closest dealer to me is 240 some odd miles away in Colorado. So that would suck if I had to go back there every time I had to do any little thing to the bike. I only have to go back to them for any warranty specific problems, but I don't really foresee too much of that happening. Fingers crossed. Toes crossed. Okay, so let me set the bike up and I'll get back to you in just a little bit. Thanks. Alright, I'm just about set up, ready to work. I just want to show you what I had to do. It's just easier to work on the bike if it's upright like that rather than just on the side stand. I do not have a center stand for this bike. I may get one, probably not. We'll see. So what I did, I just started out, I put a chunk of some paver under the side stand just to get it as close to upright as possible. And then I have a K&L scissor jack with a couple of extensions and nylon inserts to cradle the frame. So I'm not My purpose is not to lift the bike off the ground. It's just to keep it upright. It'll help with the oil change. It'll also just help with the valve adjustment in terms of having room. And then I use this, I have this thing, I think it came off of a forklift. I use it as a wheel chock to keep the bike from rolling at all. All right, I'm gonna set you up in the tripod and get started. You excited? All right, step one is to remove the seat, then the tank. To get the seat off, you need to use the key here. It's a little bit of an odd setup. Always makes me a little nervous. You pull this out, and then kind of down and at an angle. Like I said, it always makes me freaking nervous. And then simply enough, you just pull on this knob here, which is kind of flimsy. I really don't know how long that thing's gonna last. But you just pull, it's a very light pull, and the seat comes right off. So that's pretty simple. But I do hate having to take off the side cover every time. It's just weird, you know? Because instead of just coming out, you gotta sort of turn it, and you think you're gonna snap it. Anyway, that's off. Next step is the tank, which by the way is filthy. I need to go get some cleaner. First step, I gotta remove these two bolts. Would you look at that? First time, ta-da! Woohoo! So, when I unhooked everything, some gas came out of the quick connect for the fuel line, but that was just residual fuel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there were 5 connections. 2 were electrical connections. One here. Second one that has disappeared. And then these are 2 breather hoses. I just have to remember the sides that they're on. All right. Man, there's stickers everywhere on this thing. All right. Next, I believe I need to, this box, this right here, I think this is part of the ABS system. It helps if I just loosen it and lift it up. That's what I've been told. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's have 3 Allen head button screws. I think there are 4. They are. Alright. So, I'm a little concerned because although these things typically get a really good reviews on how they run and ride and everything, I've heard quite a few people mention that the quality of the hardware can be questionable. And that makes me nervous because I do not want to have to Healy coil anything or be stopped in my tracks because I have to go get a new bolt. See, like this one feels a little tight. So I'm going to be a little careful with that one. Compared to the others, that one feels quite tight. So the point of removing this, I don't have to take it all the way out, it's just to lift it up so that I'll have access to the valve cover. Will you see okay? Let me see if you can see. I brought you in closer so we could hang out better. Yeah, that one's coming right out. This one's a little snug. Now while I'm here, I have to make sure there are connections inside of there. Let me show you. Oops. Where are we? These connections here, I have to make sure they're not leaking. I believe that's part of the ABS system, and that's also part of the 300-mile service, first service. Zoom in out a little. All right, let's keep going. Let's see what's going on with this one. Nice and easy. I don't want to put too much force on it because it could snap, but it does not feel great. I hope I do not encounter this anywhere else. I definitely don't want to. I'm not happy with that. I'll let that cool down just a little from the friction. I'll take this one off. It's the top one. I like to put everything in a pattern so I know where it came out of and put the same screw back in the same place. Alright. I'm just going to kind of slowly go for it, but I do not like how that feels at all. It's so tight. It should just be getting looser. When stuff feels tight like that, you just don't want to wrench on it, because besides, you know, you'll build up heat. The friction builds up heat, and then that adds to it possibly snapping it. Man, that is just not loosening up easily or comfortably. I may have to chase those threads with a tap. And you notice I'm not doing it from here because there's so much leverage in this point, so I'm trying to just do it from the just over the bolt. So I'm just using my hand strength for the most part. I mean, I am grabbing it there, but I'm trying not to put too much pressure on that spot. Gosh. Dang. I hope what they've been saying is not totally true. Come on, honey. Getting close. The nice thing is the threads on the bolt look good. I don't see any threads from the insert coming up, so that's good. It's getting a little looser now. It is hot. Man, isn't that crazy? Physics at work. Yeah, man. These threads are flat. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. Will that focus? Focus. Hocus pocus. No. Well, you'll have to take my word for it. Those are some flattened threads. That's disappointing. I will clean those up before I put them back in. And I will run a tap into that hole to clean those threads up. See some gunk in there too. Anyway, the whole point was to loosen this up enough to kind of get it just up out of the way. Just a little bit, just enough to be able to wiggle this valve cover off. I have this little plastic shim. I think I can just kind of get it under there, just enough to keep it up and out of the way, just enough. There we go. Maybe, maybe not, perhaps. There's so many like connectors in here too, I don't want to screw anything up. Alright, next step, spark plugs come out. Alright, spark plugs coming out. You'll see me on that side. I figure I could do the hidden side first in case I have any problems. I can hide them from you. Plug looks okay. It's alright. Let's see if you can see that. Can you see that? Won't quite focus. Maybe if I do this. No. All right. Yeah, same kind of crap in there, not quite as much. The plug looks like it's burning the same though, so that's a good sign. Can you see that? Focus. I may have to work on my focus settings. Alright, plugs are out. That's good. Next I am going to remove the valve cover. That should be the next step. Let's see how tricky that is. Shouldn't be too much of an issue, I would hope. Possible. Alright, let's have at it. Wish me luck, kids. I'm going to loosen them in a crisscross pattern. That one felt good. That felt good. That felt good. Last but not least, that also felt good. Nice. I think I'll get my box end wrench now. Another tip, box end wrenches with a ratcheting box end. Man, I love these. They have different styles. This is the type where if you have it one side up, it tightens, then you got to actually literally flip it over. I prefer that because they have other ones that have a little lever here that you switch back and forth, but I found a lot of times if I'm doing some fast tightening or loosening, that my thumb hits that lever. It also usually adds bulk, so these are a little bit thinner. You can't use a ton of torque with these, but you can use plenty enough to do your job. So I'm going to take these out. Even though they felt good, I'm going to still lay them out on my shelf over there in the location that they came out of, just to be 100%. Interesting design. I like that. It's kind of pretty. Battery's dying. Gonna have to swap it out. I'll bring you back. I'll just take these all out and bring you back. Alright? Alright, I set you up for a little better view. All the valve bolts are out, valve cover bolts, and they have these washers where the outer and inner diameters both have rubber to seal it. Those came out fine. I was a little worried about them. So now this has to come off. Let's see if I can just wiggle it off. Oh, there we go. See, on a lot of older bikes, I have to reposition you a little. On a lot of older bikes, you just got to tap the heck out of that thing because it's been heat cycled. Now I have to be careful because the rubber gasket is going to come out with this, and I don't want to damage it, and I need it to be used again. So I just want to be careful not to catch it on anything. And look at that, simple. All right, let's see if I can wiggle it. I'm going to leave the gasket and let it drop down so that it stays put whilst I remove the cover. So this way I'm not dragging the gasket around anything. Beautiful. Now carefully, sometimes it may come out easier in one direction than the other. So let's play with that. Oh, there we go. This might take some finagling, maybe some cussing. That tends to help sometimes. Let's see here. What am I hitting? Look different? Cover's off. Took a little bit of finagling. You can kind of see here some marks maybe where it rubs. There are these the weld points right here on the frame. They were just low enough to get in the way. Let's see if I can show it to you. Right there, you see how it's poking its beady little head out? That was it. But I got it out. Kind of cool part. Still have the sticker on here. Full engine okay. Inspector's signature. There's a number 43307. I can't make out the name, of course. It was already torn. Do I remove it or keep it there forever? I'd love to keep it. I will take a photo of it though. That's for sure. Alright, so put that down. And here we have the innards of the top end. Zoom in for you. I still have the gasket here. I'm going to take that out. Let me bring you to the other side. I want to show you something. On this side of the gasket, you can see there's this little half moon. My understanding is that is held in there with some kind of sealant from the factory. So I want to carefully remove this without tearing the O-ring at all, so I can reuse it, or not the O-ring, the rubber valve cover seal. And let's see if I can do that. I'm going to use my fingernails a bit. Now it's moving ever so slightly, but it is. The corners here are held down a little. But let's see if I can persuade it some more. Yeah, again, I don't want to tear it or disform it or anything like that, because I don't want to have to get a new one. I'm also not sure just how readily available parts are here. I had a heck of a time just getting the crush washers for the oil drain plug. I won't get into that though. Just suffice it to say, the guy at the dealership was some kind of, I don't know. I wasn't happy. All right. Oh, okay. Looks like I got that one corner lifted. If I can get this other corner up, perhaps. So it's stuck in there a little. I have this, it's like a plastic or nylon tool. I bought it for my car. It helps push in the sealing or pull out the rubber seals and stuff. I would not use metal on that, but I will use this. I'll very easily nudge it just to get it to move. Because my fingernails are tearing out. Ha! That kind of sucks. Alright, it's moving. Let's see if I can get it out. Come on, honey. You can do it. I find if you speak lovingly, it helps. Ella, sweetheart. There you go. Look at that. See? You beautiful thing. Alright. Slowly. Still needs a little coaxing. Come on, honey. Come on, baby. There we go. Look at that. So now, this can come out and take a quick look at it. You can see it's like a channel here, right? It's not chewed up. There's a little bit of schmutz. I will say schmutz again. But I think that's just sealant. So what I will do is put this to the side. And then when it's time to put that back on, I'll have to clean this area up. I don't want to do it now because if you remember, spark plug's out of that hole. And I don't want anything dropping in there. So, I'll be right back. So I'm a little bit at a standstill with the valve adjustment because I need a 17mm Allen socket or Allen wrench to get the cover off to access the crank. I don't have one. I call my local auto parts place. They're bringing one in from their other store, but it won't be here for about another hour. So in the meantime, let's address this bolt that was the kind of one that wasn't very well threaded into the ABS bracket. So first step, get yourself one of these. I got this from a local fastener company. They're actually nationwide. They're fantastic. You can get anything you need from them. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention their name, so because I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that. And I don't know if you're allowed to name names. So anyway, this top row is metric sizes, so you just find the hole that it fits in. So this one happens to be a 6mm. Trying to not get the glare on there. Okay, so first step, I know it's a 6. Next step, I have to know what pitch the threads are. So I have a metric thread pitch tool here. I've shown you one of these before, but just for the sake of showing you again, each one of these has different teeth cut into it, which are the pitch of the threads, and they each have a number on them. So once you find the one that kind of sits comfortably inside here, sorry, then you know the pitch. So let's see if I can find that out real quick. I don't think it's a 1. Ah, it is a 1. Man, I'm good. I mean, lucky guess. So I don't know if you can tell, but that sits in there perfectly. It doesn't flop around, even with the screwy threads. So it's a 6x1. So now I'm gonna look in my kit here and try and find the appropriate size. So these are marked M for metric and then a number. So here's M6. It might not pick that up, but M6 1.0, which should match that perfectly. So what I'd like to do is put this in its holder just so that I have a little access to torque rather than just holding it by hand. Be right back. I wanted to grab my T-handle Allen. And they have cutting oil. I do not have any, just some Trace in Uno. Again, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the names. I'm just going to put a dab on each part of the threads that are going to get cut here. Usually I'd put it on right on the bolt, but for some reason I want to do that. I'm going to start that by hand, just to make sure it's in there, and then I will start screwing this in ever so delicately, maybe a turn, and then back it out a little, about a quarter of a turn, back it out, quarter of a turn. The reason you do that is to allow any of the shavings to not build up on the cutting threads. And it just lets you, Chewbacca agrees. Turn, back out, turn, etc. So I'm just going to keep doing that until I chase it all the way up the entire bolt. I'm going to add a little more oil to the bolt now. Just before, I didn't want to get it all over there and then have it on my hands and maybe have a hard time getting it started, because that's the hard part too. If the threads are chewed up, sometimes it's really hard to get it started. So you need to be really, that's the kind of the beginning of being very careful about doing this properly. And as it's going and getting to the cleaner threads, now it's just very easily turning. If you remember in a previous video I mentioned feel. Well, I can, oops, I didn't say anything about grip, but I did say stuff about feel. You have to feel what you're doing. So that's all the way through. I'm going to back it out. And if you ever encounter any resistance, you want to stop, take it out, see what's going on. Alright. When I'm getting back to the parts that were a little chewed up, I'm kind of going back and forth a little, just a little extra goodness. And see, now I can just very easily pull it out by hand. Let me clean that up. Oh, excuse me, a little coffee. Oh, there you go. Yeah, very cool. Good thing I'm off camera because you didn't see that. I just spilled all of that all over myself. All right. Now, I'm going to wipe that down, and I don't know if you'll be able to see. I will try and get it to focus. I'm not sure why it's not auto-focusing that well, but no, maybe not. But these threads are clean now. They're sharp. They are not flat. The next step is, this was an M6, right? By 1.0, so would be the place it screws into. So what I just used for this was called a die. Now I'm going to get a tap to tap those threads and clean those up, just in case those threads were bad as well. So I'm going to pause you here and I'll bring you back. So this is the location I need to chase those threads for that bolt we just did. I've got the M6 by 1.0 tap. You notice this tap is pointy on the end. Usually you may use a tap that's flat on the end to chase threads, because you may encounter the fact that these threads, for example, could bottom out, meaning they stop. And with the point in there like this, you can't get all the way to the bottom. Thankfully, these threaded holes go all the way through into the frame itself, so I can chase it all the way down. So I'm just going to add a little bit of oil on the threads here. This helps, not only helps it to cut cleanly and easily, it can tend to catch some of the shavings, or a lot of times you'll use grease to do that. So you're thinking, hey, grease is slippery, but if it's thick, it'll actually catch the threads. So I'm just doing this by hand. I'm already feeling resistance, so I'm a little worried about that. Got to make sure it goes in square. You don't want to cross thread it. Okay, it's going in. Just like with the bolt, I'm going to turn a bit, and then as I start feeling that resistance, I'm going to back out a little. Maybe back you out a little. Nope, wrong way. There you go. In, out a little, in, out a little. Doesn't feel horrible, but if the bolt was messed up, there's a good chance the threads are messed up, and there's no sense in cleaning up one half and not the other. You just take your time. I think I've reached the all the bad threads, because it's going in very easily. It's a little rough, but it's going. Especially with working on older bikes, taps and dies come in very handy just to clean stuff up, as well as if you're fabricating some new parts, a new hanging bracket or something that you need to thread. Great tool to have. And guess where I bought this set? It rhymes with Marbor Mate. No, it's from Harbor Freight. Again, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say names, but it works great. It's doing what I needed to do. Some people may scoff, snicker, guffaw, but I say let them. I don't really care. Works for me. Does what I need it to do. Alright, I'm going to take this all the way out. Excellent. Let's see. Are there any shavings on here? Can you see anything? Please focus. I don't know what the deal is with the focus here. Yeah, I can't see anything. Well, that's good. Yeah, ever so slight. I'm gonna wipe that clean, and I'm gonna wait till we button everything up, the valve cover and everything, before I blow it with any air to get any shavings out of there. Because you see the top end is open. If I blow some metal shavings off of there and they get into the top end, what are you thinking? Hey, so I'm back. Had to run out to the store, get this as a 14mm Allen. That's to take off the cover over here for the have access to the crank, so I can turn the crank from there, which will in turn turn the cams, which will allow me to adjust the valves. And I also picked up a fresh tube of black RTV silicone. I love this stuff. I had some, but it was old and it was hard in the tube. I'm going to use that to just a little bit on the the rubber gasket for the valve cover, not for sealing so much as opposed to keeping it in place when I'm putting the valve cover back on. I may put just a little bit in the half moon here. That's where they put it in the factory as well. People have told me not to bother, but I can't see it hurting, especially if I clean off all the old stuff really well and I just put a really thin bead of it. So it's just about almost 100 degrees here in the garage. I'm going to turn on the fan at the least, very least, and get started and hopefully finish with this because it's been several hours. Alright, let's get it done. Alright, here I am. Gonna try and remove this. Wish me luck, because I've heard some horror stories about the threads on this thing not being great, and or the this just being really tight in there. So let's see. Maybe not. That was nothing. That was simple. Alright, let's get that all the way out. There's something on there. I don't know if it was just some old polishing compound. Nice. You can see there's a little down here. Can you see that? Zoom in on that a little. Some white powder here. There's also some on the this here. Yeah, I just have a feeling that that's some polishing compound from the factory. Alright, that came out great. No problems, the threads look fine. Cool, let me put that down. I really like this too, by the way. It has Royal Enfield in it. I really like that. Okay. Alright, so what am I going to be doing now? I will show you. In there, see that? That is where you turn the crank. And when that turns, that in turn turns the timing chain, which will turn the cams. And then as I turn the cams, if you look on here, can you see that R? There's an R right there, and there's an L down here. I have to line the L up with this head, surface of that head, and that means I can work on the intake and exhaust valves on the left side of the bike, and then I continue turning to the right to the R, and then I can work on the right side. Okay, so let's do that now. I'll do the left side since we're on the left. Let me put you back on the tripod here. Zoom in just a little, maybe zoom out a little so you can see what I'm doing. Got a 17mm socket. Now, remember I was talking, I often talk about using the manual. So I watched some YouTube videos, and the person in that video insisted you turn the crankshaft counterclockwise. But the Royal Enfield manual, straight from the factory, specifically states you turn it clockwise. So that could cause you some issues. So always get the manual, check it out, read it, and then when you watch stuff on YouTube, even what I'm doing, take it all with a grain of salt.
So I'm going to turn this clockwise, as stated in the manual. Oh, you might notice I have the spark plug back in. It's very loosely in there. There's maybe half a thread, and it's just mainly to keep anything from falling in there. So the compression is really not causing a problem. And there we go. Oh, I overshot it. No, that looks good. Shine some light on that situation. Okay, so this line of the L is lined up with the surface here. Let me show you that. Can you see that? L, the line, and the surface. So now I can adjust the left side. These are the intake and the exhaust valves. And let's go over to the manual, which this manual I happen to have on my computer. Let me enlarge that a little. And let's see what it says. Can you see that? Oh, too far. For intake, 0.08 millimeters. For exhaust, 0.18 millimeters. Very important. So intake, 0.08. Exhaust, 0.18. So let me go grab my feeler gauges and we'll continue. So here are my feeler gauges. They feel and gauge. How appropriately named. So if you look on these, they have a, hopefully you can pick that up, inches and millimeters. Inches on the top. So this is a 0.08, which we said is for the intake, and this is a 0.18 for the exhaust. The 0.8 you can see is super flexible, and the 1.8 less. So that's how thick this is. It's 0.08 millimeters thick, and this one is 0.18 millimeters thick. And what I'm going to do is take this feeler gauge and right between here and the top of the valve face, this should slide in between. So that's telling me this valve is too tight. Let's try that one. Same issue. So what you're doing is you're trying to get it in there and feel. You use your feel to see if it's got the right amount of gap, because that's imperative for the bike to run properly as well as not to damage anything. Let's try the exhaust at where are we? 0.18. Okay, let's try that. Quite tight. Also quite tight. So next step is, if you look up here, that, let me back you out a little. This is a lock nut and a screw. I have to loosen the lock nut while turning the screw in whichever direction I need to go. Counterclockwise is looser, clockwise is tighter, and then get that feeler gauge in there just so I feel some slight drag, and then tighten that lock nut down with being careful not to change the adjustment. Alright, let's work on that. There we go. I need a 10mm wrench and a screwdriver. Alright, so I'm going to loosen this lock nut while holding onto that screw head. I don't want it to turn. Okay, it's loose. There we go. So I'm trying to measure between, you see this little silver thing right there? Let's get closer. Between here and the top of the valve stem. I turned it out quite a bit just to kind of see what was going on. They were tight. What you want to do is get that in there and then feel some drag. I don't feel any yet. Here we go. Feel a little bit of drag. And that's how a feeler gauge works. You put it in there and you have to use your feel. So we've talked about feel before. And this is yet another situation where that plays a part. So now it's dragging quite a bit. I like it right there. So now I need to keep that screw in place while tightening this lock nut down. And don't let that screw turn. Make sure that lock nut is down tight enough. You don't want it getting loose while you're riding. And now, most importantly, check it again. They're a little loose for my tastes. I want to feel maybe a little, hard to tell. Now mind you, when valves start breaking in, they get tighter usually, not looser. So as a result, you don't want to make them too loose, thinking, they'll just break in, but I'm going to tighten that down just another smidge. Smidge. And you don't want to put any downward pressure on the screwdriver either. I like that. They do make a special tool. It's kind of a hollow socket with a screwdriver built in. I don't have one, but you don't really need it. Not saying I don't want to get one. I like having tools, but you don't absolutely need it. I like that a lot. All right, big difference from what it was. Okay, we got it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the rest of them. It's the same procedure. I'm going to do the other intake, and then I will move on and do the two exhausts, and then I'll rotate the crankshaft again to get the R marking on here, and then do the other same on the right side. Okay, I'll be back when I'm done. I want to make one comment before I go on to the right side. I just finished the left side intake and exhaust. Now that I adjusted them, what I want to do is turn the crank again 360 degrees and come back to this mark and check my clearances again, just to make sure everything's seated properly, etc. That's very important. Don't just do it and think you're done. All right? Okay, kids. Valves are adjusted, both sides, checked and double checked. Next is to put the rubber gasket and then the valve cover back on. According to the manual and according to some other sources, just want a little dab of this black RTV gasket silicone in there. Just there. Some people are telling me don't do that. Some people are telling me put it on the gasket, on the cover, so it'll stay in place. But I'm just going to put a little here, put the rubber O-ring on, and then feed the cover on, and then the rubber gasket kind of sits, has a very, whoop, Ben Kenobi's hanging out with me. It has a very positive lock onto the cover, so I don't think I'm going to need it. I'm just going to do what my gut tells me to do. Just a little bit. I don't want like a bead, I just want a very thin film. Just going to do that. I'll spread it with my finger. It's a little much right there. Because that's, I noticed when I took it off, this is where it had some. So if it's good enough for Royal Enfield factory, it's good enough for me. Again, I'm just putting a very, very thin film. Maybe a little bit more, just to be safe. Like that. Take off the excess. All right. Wipe that off right there. Wipe that off right there. Keep in mind, I already cleaned the valve cover. I already cleaned off the head, and I'm just getting any extra oil off of the rubber gasket right now. Again, being careful not to tear it or twist it too much or look at it the wrong way. Tell it you love it. I love you. All right, let's go. So I'm going to feed this in place gingerly. Ginger. All right, let's go. There we go. That looks good. Sit that in place. I'm happy with that. Just kind of loosely keeping it where it's got to be. Nice. Next, the valve cover with okay sticker, baby. I should probably just take that off, but I'm not gonna. I don't remember what side it came out. I think it came out that side. Well, maybe not. For as easy as they make it seem, it ain't that easy. And I just don't want to scratch the whole thing up, you know what I'm saying? That's my concern. Alright, there we go. Oops. Alright, welcome back. So, valve cover's on. Oh, it was so easy. Not easy. I have an issue. I don't know if it's just on my bike or what have you, but this spot right here, if that was like a 32nd of an inch shorter or not so fat, my valve cover would slide in and out very easily. It's not, and I'm not going to grind it or anything, maybe someday in the future, but you can see here like it drips down ever so slightly, so it made it a very tight fit, so I could not put the gasket in the cover using a little silicone. I wasn't going to, then I decided to do it, but I couldn't because I would have chewed the damn thing up trying to get it over the cam tower. So I had to put the gasket and just lay it down in place and then get the cover on and then try and get the gasket in place with a little silicone. Very tough. So yeah, I'll probably have to address this spot right here. You can even see it right there. Right there. So I was worried about scratching the heck out of the cover too. Anyway, alright, now I'm going to screw this back down. Nothing too exciting, but I did want you to see the difference now that I remember we chased that thread. So let's see what happens. Let me grab the washer. Let me grab the Allen. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. What do you think? Will it be better? Oh, I feel it. It's just going in nice and smoothly with my fingers. There's no way I could have done that before. No way at all. So, crisis averted. Look at that. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Alright, gonna tighten those up. I'll put the tank back on. You don't really need to see that. Alright, crisis averted. I'm gonna put the tank back on. You don't really need to see any of that. It's just the reverse of taking it off. And then I'm gonna start it up. I'll turn you back on for the startup. I'm just going to let it warm up for a few minutes regardless, and then I can drain the oil, change the filter, and I'm pretty much done at that point. I just need to check the drive chain slack, check all the connections, throttle cable, clutch cable, make sure nothing has broken, snapped, worked its way loose, anything like that. There's an entire checklist that I'm going to go through, but basically that's that. Okay, be back. Tank's back on. Let me start it up. Wish me luck. Alright. Just turning it on a couple, 3 times. Let the there's Star Wars Day. That's my alarm that my garage door opened. Okay, I need both hands. Oh no, I don't. Okay, it's in neutral. Wish me luck. Great. The engine light came off. Started right up. It's idling a little high because it hasn't been started in 2 weeks. That's good. Even back pressure. Sounds good. Gotta warm up a little bit. Yeah, I haven't ridden in like 2 weeks because I was waiting to do the 300-mile service. Running well. I don't see any oil leaks. That's good. It actually sounds like it's running better from what I remember anyway. Alright. That's good. I'm happy. You know what that means? After my oil change, look at this beautiful sky. Beautiful. It's about 8 p.m. and I think I'm going to go for a nighttime ride. Get some more miles on this baby. On that note, see ya.